Welcome back to the Reboot Show. I'm your host, Sally A. Illingworth, and I'm excited to be here today for the 6th segment of the DIF Daily Download series. We're joined by our resident technology panelist, Luke Stowe and Kelly Hutchinson from Digital Innovation Futures. Before we get started, I'd like to hand over to Luke to do our acknowledgement of country.
Yeah, thanks, Sally. On behalf of all of us appearing live today from Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, we would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations as the traditional owners of the land in which we all meet today. We respectfully recognise elders past, present and emerging.
Thank you, Luke. As always, if you're coming in live, drop a 1 below. If you're coming in on the replay, drop a 2 below. And as always, let us know where you're coming in from. It's incredible to see how these platforms bring us all together. So as per the process, Kelly, kick us off. What happened at the DIF 2021 festival today?
Well, I'm just realising I can't see a thing through those glasses with the glare. But look, today was a really great regional growth summit. So it started in the morning and it was running all day, and it was bringing together Victorian businesses across the state to share their stories about how they've embraced digital mindsets and looked at growing their businesses in ways that maybe they didn't even think of before. So it's the third year that the 25-8 team have delivered this project. And it was just really interesting because it gave some really good grounding in there was an economist from ID Economics who talked about where was the impact of COVID last year into this year, where are we sitting as far as jobs, as far as living and moving around the state. We know that a lot of people have moved because there's the ability to not have to be based in the city. So it was some of those trends that were really interesting to find out, and then to see how the businesses have adapted and really hearing from people on the ground who might be out. There's the Buy from Benalla program, which was, launched last year when the first lockdown. And it was really like taking the idea of coming down the local street in Benalla, all of those shop fronts being online. And then that encouraging people to buy locally, and to really actually has been a catalyst for a number of regional businesses who maybe had been dragging the chain a bit on whether they'd go online because they're going, oh, but actually when you're part of a marketplace and a brand campaign that raises, everybody, all the boats lift, if that makes sense. So that was really what was really interesting, looking at the opportunities for regional businesses to connect and grow into new markets that they hadn't engaged with before.
Yeah, I think it's been a really challenging time for regional areas throughout the pandemic, but there's certainly also a lot of opportunities that are coming with it because, as you highlighted, Kelly, I think a lot of people are rethinking, do I need to be based near a CBD anymore? Are central business districts even going to exist in the future? I think it's a really exciting time, and it really levels the playing field as well to an extent for regional areas, I think.
Definitely. And sorry, Luke.
No, I was just going to say, and I do think in addition to that, Sally, that regional Victoria is a really good place for businesses to think about, having out of CBD centres that can support them with their applications and services. So, this is becoming much more of a well thought through thing that instead of having everyone congregated in the city, you can leverage the capabilities out in rural communities as well.
So and in terms of stats there, about the remote working. And I mean, I live 40 kilometres from the city. I'm in Melbourne, though. I consider myself, I live in Melbourne, but I'm 40K. But I'm in the foothills of the Dandenong Ranges, So it's that thing of I have co-working people that I was used to hang out with up here. So I didn't drive to the city every day of the week, So it just now, what I used to do is now normal. So it was interesting, actually. So some of the stats they gave us was about remote working may increase the attractiveness of regional living, especially areas with a high share of business service jobs. So that 4 in 10 businesses were permitting teleworking in September 2021. Right, so that's the plan. That the benefits experienced by this teleworking businesses was improved staff wellbeing by 45%, increased productivity of 26%, improved staff retention at 18%. We also reduced overheads, the 27%, because you're not having a permanent office. And while we're still in this space, it's businesses, a lot of people have been recruited and come on board and been running, and they've never met each other in person.
And I think particularly for talent, one of the things that's sort of threaded throughout the DIF Daily Download series in our conversation is, the importance of empowering people to go and, experiment and try new jobs, in the technology sector and when it comes to innovation, digital, etc. And I think this sort of decentralization of business, if you like, and where businesses operate from also provides talent in those regional areas with the opportunity to perhaps have a better chance in the running for some of those jobs versus their counterparts who may be based in central business districts who previously would have had an advantage because they're a lot closer. So I think we're going to see the how talent is spread out across the country really change, and surely that's going to be great for regional businesses as well as just residents in general in terms of potentially having better outlooks for their careers.
Absolutely. And we were talking about there's the ability to live and work anywhere, but then there's also the option to actually build your own networks and be a solo business, an entrepreneur, and grow it from a regional base much more than there used to be. And we actually had Jo Burston from Inspiring Rare Birds come this morning as the keynote speaker. And she really was very much around building the capacity through connectivity and also helping about resilience. We talk about resilience a lot at the moment. You need it in yourself and your business. It was something that was picked up with yesterday's the pivot program, that, it is really hard to balance all of these things and, running and, keeping everything running around, and knowing that mentors are a really important part of that successful journey and that now that mentors don't have to be the person you catch up for a coffee when you're both in the same city, you've actually got quite a broader way of engaging and new ways of connecting, because you can have meaningful conversations. And I think we realise this much more through virtual means. And there are other ways that new networking opportunities of breakouts and small groups and things like that we're seeing people do throughout the festival. So yesterday there was SBE was looking at female founders and the challenges that they have. They've just released the video, so I've got to upload that onto DIF on demand. But it really is that entrepreneurial journey, and being able to extend your network, and what you pay out is what you get back, sort of type of thing. So there's some really interesting insights that we had from those perspectives.
I mean, and SBE do a wonderful job with supporting female founders, and I think what I realise through being part of this program is just the amazing amount of capability that's there for people who are interested in doing something in the startup space, particularly if it's technology. DIF on demand is going to be a great resource for those people just to connect and to understand who they can reach out to. So if you've got an idea of something you'd like to do in technology, and you are in regional Victoria, even in the city, you might be 40 k's out, you might be bang in the middle, DIF on demand is going to be for you as a place to find out where you can get started and encourage you to do so. Kelly, I'm interested, before we sort of go back to that, I wanted to understand, you said last night was a pitch night. What happened at the pitch night? And can you tell us, was there anything exciting?
Yeah, there was lots. So it was Startup Victoria, which is one of the largest community groups that are supporting entrepreneurs and startups and scale-ups in Victoria and even Australia. They've got a community of 60,000, and they run a monthly pitch night, but usually they are around a particular topic or segment or industry, right? A technology, ag tech, or AI. But with being part of DIF this year, we made it open house. So everything was on the table, and gosh, there was a lot of different things there. And actually it was a male fertility startup that ended up getting the judges prize, an amazing prize pool, such amazing resources and research and facilities and tools and support that you win as the package winner. And but there was space, there was health, there was lots of different applications that were all really interesting, and really, gosh, they had good pitches. There was the standard pitch for the 4 main stage, and then they did 90-second pitches. And the companies that pitched the 90 seconds, they were just right on there. And, it was really inspiring. And it's very important, because we talk about a pitch. The reality is a pitch happens when you're in the elevator. It came around from an elevator pitch. That's how long you've got to get from the ground floor to wherever you're going. to explain who you are, what you do, and what you fix, what problem you're fixing. Yep.
Mm.
Hi, I'm Kelly. I do this to do that, and thanks it. Would you like to talk? Right. I don't know what it is I'm doing today. You have to work out the pitch. But the thing about the whole accelerator and incubator programs that companies are going through with an idea, go through this, do all the different market validation. You know, you're going through, hey, from Bangladesh, is that, you know, there are structured programs that are there because the same way mentoring and Inspiring Redbirds has a mentoring program for entrepreneurs, other different programs. And some of the people who were pitching yesterday had been through some of those. So that was really interesting. What's been really cool is saying, oh, I recognize that person's name. And then they popped up in the workshop today and they were talking about their other business. And I said, and he goes, DIF is my crack. And I went, well, that's a great line. But, you know, it is the thing of having many different ways. And I think he's involved in it's Startup Boot Camp is doing, I think, so many of them. I've got to look. But there is a Gippsland and Runway going on Friday night doing their cohort pitch. So that's something that's very common. Say again?
Is that available via DIF? People can tune in via DIF?
Yes. Yeah. So I really encourage anybody who's thinking about a startup or not, it's the side hustle as a corporate. You've decided I've had it and I really want to take this idea, you know, all of those types of things is really, we've got a showcase of a lot of different cohorts, which is the class of a particular period that was doing you know, an accelerator program or an incubator program where you go through and work on your business. And then at the end of it, you pitch in front of investors, in front of other potential partners who might be able to take your business to market. And I've got loads of them on demand from the past year because they are the best market research you will ever do. They're great for you to see who else is doing stuff in health tech or ag tech or fintech or cyber, right? So they're all there. I mean, you're not going to be able to go to all of those pitches anyway, even if you're in person. So it's been a real added bonus of doing them online.
Yeah, no, really, really good. And can you tell us about the one tonight, which is the Piercy Oration?
Yes. So tonight is the Piercy Oration. So I'll declare that I'm actually Deputy Chair of the Piercy Foundation. And that's actually one of the things about many people involved in the festival is they have their professional and then they have their volunteer work that they do. So there's a lot of people who pay it forward, whether it's mentoring, whether it's being a council member of the Australian Information Industry Association or the Australian Computer Society or the Australian Information Security Association, right? So Piercy isn't a member-based association. It was founded on the history of Australian computing, and we recognise entrepreneurs at the midpoint of their career. So not startups, not, you know, it's people who are at that curve, right? Just about to, they've hit it quite big and they're about to go bigger. And so there's a Victorian, and every other state has an Entrepreneur of the Year award where there's a recipient selected by their peers who have taken a risk, made a difference, and are inspiring others. So, you know, it's a very different type of award. You don't nominate yourself for it. You know, it's a nomination from your peers and judging from the previous winners and others in industry. And it's happening right now. And I'm sort of trying to work out, I'm the one who does the Twitter, so I'm not sure if I'm who's won because I haven't told anybody because I haven't been there to watch it yet. But that's the Entrepreneur Award. So then there's also the Piercy Oration, which is a thought leadership lecture that happens each year where we invite an important Australian to share their perspective on technology and where might it fit in our society, our economy, or where we might be moving forward. We've had different topics from AI and ethics, and last year was about resilience from a retired general, and this year we have the second commissioner from the tax office talking about the digital transformation that has happened over the past couple of years that really positioned our ATO to be able to roll out JobKeeper and JobSeeker. If we didn't have that major public sector digital transformation, we wouldn't have been able to be in the position that we were last year.
I think it's that more people hear that story, because that to me is, in a respectful way, surprising. You know, that's not something that is top of the news feeds or making news headlines. And I think particularly for the Australian government broadly, that's a really important thing for Australians to be aware of and to appreciate about the role Australia is playing, one, in terms of serving the people in Australia, but secondly, the role Australia is playing in terms of, you know, putting us on the map from a technology perspective, because a lot of people think Australia is, you know, we're behind and we're not as great as, say, you know, Silicon Valley, et cetera. We don't have anything to offer in that respect.
We're very different. I mean, you know, yeah, we are an interesting size of market. So what's interesting is actually Victoria and Australia are the size of market that multinationals see as quite a good test bed. So let's say Eventbrite came and established in their headquarters in Melbourne, and they found that they can roll out and test new features in this market because the size of it actually is really good for testing and getting feedback and actually implementing new things that they'll then roll out globally. So that was something that, you know, I found out a couple of years ago through the DIF, you know.
I think we in Victoria are called early adopters.
Yes. Yes. So I'm getting a bit dark here now because it's the sun's coming down.
It's interesting thinking of early adopters. I mean, I'm aware that, you know, when Uber Eats launched in Australia, I think their launch in Victoria specifically was one of their most successful launches in the world. So, you know, thinking of adoption, you know, that's pretty cool for Australia, I think.
Yeah. And actually, you know, Melbourne and Australia is you know, have won awards over the years for being a livable city. And I think I saw something today about startup, the position of Victoria in startup rankings.
As long as Victoria starts to beat Sydney in the ranks, because I think they're still a little bit ahead of us.
Well, you know, Victoria has a very vibrant commitment to the sector through Launch Vic. And actually next week on the 8th, there's going to be quite a big update on some of the other, sorry, somebody just put a chat there that totally distracted me. But the idea that we just have such a great culture here of paying it forward, of supporting each other. And what I've found really heartening is, I call it the DIF community, that we used to all go to, you know, meetups and other activities in person, and you'd see people out and you'd connect and somebody would introduce you to somebody else. And we've actually made the transition across quite well. And Startup Victoria, with their model that they've got, is Founder Connect. So next week they've decided to put it on steroids, and they're calling it the Super Connectors. So they've invited a whole lot of different people that it's basically speed networking. And for founders that come to this session next week, I think it's on the 7th, they will be able to meet people that will then just expand their network, because it is a matter of paying that forward. And that is actually the culture that's in Israel and the culture that's in Silicon Valley. And I see that culture here, very much so.
Yeah. Look, I was just going to say, if I can, I don't want to enter into this debate about Victoria versus New South Wales. There's enough people doing that, thanks to our great politicians. But what I will say is that Victoria is a really great place, and there's a lot of great stories about businesses that have been founded here that are doing really well. And the tech community is alive and well in Victoria, that's for sure. And the DIF definitely helps that along. And, you know, we talk about models that are changing because of the pandemic. Business models, Sally and I talk about this all the time. Business models have changed forever because of the pandemic. And what we will see as a innovation is things like the DIF being used as a centerpiece for how we communicate with each other and how we start to share learnings. I think you talked about this a couple of days ago, sharing learnings around what's working and what's not as we make a new pathway through. So it's a great time for innovators, a great time for people wanting to start businesses that are going to change with us as we come out of this pandemic, and as we create new business models that will allow us to continue to do business, but not in the same way that we have done previously.
Yeah, no, it's certainly an exciting time. And I am mindful of time, but I'm going to hand back over to you in a second, Luke. So for those of you who have been tuning in, you'll know that as a part of the DIF Daily Download series, every day throughout the festival, we are releasing a special ebook. So today's ebook has been produced by a local Victorian business that specializes in digital transformation, which is really exciting. And I'm going to hand over to you, Luke, to sort of give everyone an idea of what they can expect. It is on process automation automation, and it contains a range of insights and also 2 case studies relating to process automation.
Yeah, it's a great topic. You know, a lot of people in technology have this debate with me, Kelly. You'll be interested in this. One is data more important than the process? You know, there's a lot of people that go on the side of data is very important, and I say yes, it is. It is very important. You know, data doesn't tell lies, but lies certainly use data to tell their story. But process is where it's really important, because if you get your process wrong, you know, data can end up in all types of different places. So this ebook really goes into a couple of key things. One, if you're an organization and you're thinking about commencing on a process improvement journey, where would you start? That's the first case study. It lays out for you some ideas about where to start and what's important. And secondly, what it goes into is, if you're thinking about doing automation, how does having great process allow you to move to automation more quickly? And so from that perspective, this ebook is really quite valuable to those thinking about moving into process in a serious way.
Yeah, process automation is certainly an interesting space and an exciting space. And I think, you know, to sort of tie it back to the COVID conversation we've been having, I think certainly throughout, you know, 2020 and now 2021, we're seeing process automation and just process improvement more generally becoming very top of mind for organizations as they've had to pivot quite quickly. But I am mindful of time. Thank you very much, Kelly Hutchinson from Digital Innovation Futures, for joining us today on the Reboot Show, powered by Big Mouth. Thank you to our resident technology panelist, Luke Stowe, and we will see you all again tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Thanks, guys.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Bye.